protecting your money can be as important as making it. Hey, I am Chuck the Bureaucrat, and some of you might remember that I'm on a quest to transfer my non-hereditary DoD pension and VA disability payments into a lasting legacy for my children and grandchildren. And today I want to explain roughly what we did and why. Now, do not get excited. Trusts, in and of themselves, do not create wealth. In fact, in most cases, they don't even generate cash flow. Instead, trusts are a bit like castles. Castles don't create kingdoms, but kingdoms have castles. And just like a castle is a defensive structure, a trust helps protect family assets. To explain what we're doing, I'm going to use a hypothetical family, not my own. We have the husband, Hugh, and his wife, Whitney, and they have 2 kids, a son named Saul and a daughter named Daria. Now, I'm using this hypothetical family for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I don't want to air my family business on YouTube, but more importantly, I am not a lawyer. I am not qualified to be advising on this topic. So what we're discussing today is about as authoritative as the talk that you'd hear in a barbershop. But there is an even more practical reason that if you're interested in a trust, you really should talk to a lawyer. The laws governing trusts vary from state to state. So even if a real deal lawyer did publish a YouTube video about the laws in their state, it may not accurately reflect the laws in your state. So we're going to stick with a hypothetical family and a rough description of the hows and the whys. Hugh and Whitney are going to create a family trust, and then they're going to place their assets into that trust. As part of this process, they make themselves, along with Saul and Daria, beneficiaries of the trust. Now, why would they go to all of this effort and not just use a will? Well, when you die, your will enters a process called probate, where the courts oversee the distribution of your assets. As a result, your estate can be the subject of claims that neither you nor your descendants really have much control over. This matters to Hugh and his family because in his younger days, Hugh was part of a rock band. And while nobody talks about it, those were days filled with drugs and sex. Hugh is not 100% certain that he doesn't have illegitimate children out there who might suddenly show up and make a claim during probate. So Hugh and Whitney have put their assets into the trust, and the trust buys things for their benefit without Hugh or Whitney either owning the assets or the things that the trust purchases. They don't own their house, they don't own their cars, and that's because the trust owns it. And so when one of them dies, the only things that may enter probate are minor personal items, like Whitney's stuffed Pokemon collection. And the trust? Well, it just keeps benefiting the survivor without any real change. But what happens when both Hugh and Whitney have passed away? Well, this is the next interesting part of the way their trust is constructed. Once both Hugh and Whitney have passed, the assets in the trust get divided according to the rules of the trust. In their case, all the assets get moved into 2 subtrusts, one for Saul and one for Daria. And why? Well, Daria is married, and her husband, Dave, is a serial entrepreneur. Dave's professional motto is fail fast and fail often. And boy, does he ever live up to that motto. Maybe someday he'll strike it rich, but for now, he has plenty of debt collectors and angry ex-business partners on his tail. And that means that Daria's accounts are at risk too. If a large inheritance showed up in Daria's checking account, it might get all gobbled up by creditors. To protect against that, Hugh and Whitney's assets will go into Daria's subtrust for the benefit of Daria. And then there's Saul. He is his father's son without the musical talent. He goes in and out of rehab, and while he's clean and sober now, relapse is always a possibility. Nobody, not even Saul, thinks it's a good idea for him to have unrestricted access to even small sums of cash. So his subtrust makes sure that any assets he does get are supervised by a responsible trustee. And hopefully you can see from this cute little fake family how a trust can help protect the assets that have been accumulated through a lifetime of hard work, and how it can protect the hopes and dreams for the future. If you're a military retiree, you're probably sitting on a much larger nest egg than the general population. And so you might want to be thinking about how to protect that little treasure chest. And even if you don't feel like J.D. Rockefeller, let me share one last point from my own personal journey. I have involved my kids quite a bit in this process. I mean, after all, they're the ones who are going to have to live with the consequences of the decisions that my wife and I are making. And an unexpected benefit of involving a couple of 20-somethings in this estate planning process has been that they have begun to start thinking about their own future. They've started to realize what they have to learn in order to control their own financial future. It's been a benefit all the way around. And now, if you want to learn more, you're going to have to talk to a real lawyer. In fact, if you want to see how to find lawyers who are accredited to submit VA claims and deal with VA appeals, watch this video.